Isn't it interesting that Deontay Wilder is all buddy-buddy with Luis Ortiz, a guy that he beat? And there's a few other Deontay Wilder victims who Wilder's cool with. But the one man to beat him, Tyson Fury, he still holds a grudge against. Isn't that an interesting dynamic? So, in this article, there's a few quotes from Deontay Wilder, and he still isn't letting go of this absurd notion that Tyson Fury cheated in, well, first of all, he said their first and second fights. Is he insinuating that he cheated in the third fight as well? Didn't his people cross all the T's and dot all the I's in terms of checking what Fury was doing and what have you? So what's his excuse for the third fight? Anyway, let me quote Deontay Wilder here. He said, nah, never, in terms of, being cool with Tyson Fury. He said, nah, never, because I know the truth behind that. I don't condone cheating and ish like that. I know no matter what people say. He goes on to say that he wouldn't go to the authorities regarding Tyson Fury's apparent cheating. He said, quote, it's just like you got analysts that say, if he did have something in his gloves, why did you not go to the authorities? I wish I was in front of them and I would grab their collar and put them close to my face so we can be eye to eye, face to face, so much that my breath touched their face, and I would tell them, why the F would I go to the authorities when I have an opportunity to release my own energy and put my hands up on him in the possibility of trying to kill him and get paid millions of dollars doing it? Why would I go to the authorities? He goes on to say, okay, I go to the authorities and they lock him up. What's next? That's it. A good write-up. Okay, we proved our case. Nobody getting fed. What justice has that done? That don't make no sense. That sounds like somebody who is non-confrontational, that is not involved in combat sports because their mindset is not on combat. It's set on being nice, or that theory don't even make sense to me. We are in the hurt business. This is what we do. I can hurt you and get paid doing it. That sounds like a sweet deal to me. So, and he was asked whether he's open to a fourth Fury fight. He said most definitely. Now, Deontay Wilder is crazy. There's no other way to put it. The guy's crazy. He's talking about, Tyson Fury cheated even after the third fight when they crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's. What is going on in this guy's head? I speak about the fact that fighters have, and I'm talking about the elite fighters, a glass is half full mentality. They're insufferable optimists. They have to, when they lose, come up with some type of psychological crutch to lean on in order to build themselves back psychologically, in order to build their confidence back up again. So in their heads, they tell themselves, my shoes were too big, or the ropes were too slack, or he cheated, or he did this, or he did that. This is a common thing that fighters do. And, it's the difference between people who allow defeats to get to them and bring them down, and people who just rise above all that and maintain their confidence. That's the difference, right? They focus on the positives and even become delusional to some degree in order to maintain a positive mindset. But with Deontay Wilder, it's an extreme example. I've never seen a fighter in all the decades I've been watching the sport be this extreme in terms of his delusion. But I guess to try and rationalize it, most fighters at this level, let's say most heavyweights at this level, are much more technically gifted than Deontay Wilder. And so for a guy like him, who's as technically limited as he is, to reach this level, maybe he needs something else extraordinary about him. Other than his punching power, which is extraordinary, maybe he needs an extraordinary level of delusion to reach this level as well. Because if he didn't have that, maybe he never would have become WBC champion. Maybe he never would have beaten the people that he's beaten, the Luis Ortizes and all these other guys. So just being objective, if Deontay wasn't as delusional as he is, perhaps he wouldn't have even got this far in boxing. You know, I do have to say that. But irrespective of that, it is still a strange thing to witness a fighter being this delusional, coming up with so many excuses for losing to a guy, being so detached from reality. It's incredible. And as I say, this is a pathology. I don't think this is something that Deontay Wilder thinks of consciously. It's just the way he's wired naturally. And I really have to laugh at Wilder saying he's never ducked anybody, because he said that recently. Of course, he's ducked several fighters over the years. But yeah, Wilder, as I've always said, is somebody of very low intelligence with very high testosterone and a very intense personality. Again, that's what makes him so dangerous, is the intense person. It's not just the punching power. And of course, the intense personality is part of the reason that he has such tremendous punching power. It's not just a physical thing, it's a mental thing. A lot of these serious punchers, they think differently than the other fighters. They've got a different mentality. And that goes into their training when they're hitting the bag, when they're hitting the pads. For example, Deontay Wilder admitted that he was actually trying to take Tyson Fury's life in their third fight. That was his intention. He was thinking, I'm trying to take this guy's life. That doesn't shock me, right? I've heard Mike Tyson say that. I've heard George Foreman say that about their fights. They were going in there to try catch bodies. I'm not shocked. That's the kind of extreme mentality you're going to get from certain fighters in boxing. It's inevitable. Don't be horrified by it, people. Like, we're watching a brutal sport, and particularly at the elite levels. At heavyweight, guys are going to go in there in a complete warrior mindset, which is like, literally do or die for some of them. So that is what that is, but it's still funny to read these kind of comments from Deontay Wilder talking about Tyson Fury cheated and the weights in his gloves and all this absurd stuff. Can you imagine? Egg weights in his gloves. How low must your intelligence be to actually believe that? I mean, it's unreal. And what's even more unreal is that there's been people in the comment section of some of my videos saying, well, how can you say he didn't? How do you know he didn't have egg weights in his glove? Like, how dumb can you be that you even need to ask that question? Do you know anything, the slightest thing about physics? Like, oh my God. If someone had egg weights in their gloves, you do realize that it would completely change the way the glove moves around and completely change the way the fighter moves their hands around. There will be obvious telltale signs, not the silly Photoshop nonsense that you see online and these tiny little clips, which proves nothing other than Fury was wearing horsehair gloves, which we all know anyway, and horsehair gloves are perfectly legal. Yeah? If someone had egg weights in their gloves, I mean, you're going to smash your hands to pieces for one. It's just totally absurd. Only in the mad world of Deontay Wilder would people even, what's the word I'm looking for? Entertain such nonsense. Because like attracts like, Deontay Wilder, being of low intelligence, attracts other people of low intelligence. They're drawn to him. Birds of a feather flock together. So, yeah, that is what that is. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below about Deontay Wilder saying all this nonsense. And obviously that's where he's drawing his strength from his delusions. Because if you remember, Deontay was very, very quiet after the second Tyson Fury fight. And it wasn't until maybe a year or so, or maybe a bit less than a year, that he piped up and all of a sudden he was back on social media, because this guy was active before on Twitter and other social media, constantly trolling other people. But yeah, he went missing. I mean, we were looking for this guy everywhere after the second Fury fight. He was turning up on milk cartons. Have you seen Deontay? And I think that what happened is his team helped him construct this fantasy in his mind that Fury had cheated and all this kind of thing. I think his team helped him with that. And that's where he got the confidence to say, okay, let me go for the third fight. I think that's what it was. His confidence was built upon these insane fantasies about Fury cheating. Now, look, cheating, of course, happens in boxing, but the kind of stuff that Wilder was talking about, I mean, how many excuses do you need? So, first of all, it was the costume, then the referee was in on it and he was drunk or corrupt. Then his own corner spiked his water. Then Fury had egg weights in the gloves. I mean, come on. It's ridiculous. The mad world of Deontay Wilder. But look, as mad as he is, as crazy as he is, he's still a dangerous hombre. That's for sure. He's like one of them country guys. You know, you go to the outback in Texas or somewhere, like West Texas. I know Wilder's from Alabama. But them hillbillies, hey, you don't want to get caught lacking when, when you're around them hillbillies. You know, you run out of gas when you're in the middle of nowhere in rural Alabama or Texas or somewhere like that. And some 6'7" country strong pig wrestling hillbilly says, oh, I can help you. Yeah, don't take that help, mate. Run for the hills. That's Wilder, bruv. That's Wilder. He's like one of these dangerous country strong pig wrestlers, bro. Don't mess with him. He might be crazy, but he's not to be trifled with in any kind of physical altercation. So yeah, that's Wilder. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you're tired of the biased narratives and mass censorship on mainstream platforms, and you want to be part of a community of critical thinkers who love free speech just as much as you do, then come and join me on Patreon and access my weekly no-holds-barred, censorship-free podcast where we lift the lid on a wide variety of controversial topics. It's not mainstream friendly, it's not politically correct, but that's the whole point. We dare to stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. Just head on over to my Patreon page and select the tier called Hatman Hot Topics. You'll gain access to a minimum of 2 hours of exclusive content every single week, including podcasts, videos, interviews, live stream Q&As, as well as my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. Not to mention a vast back catalog of hundreds of hours of previous episodes. You can listen via the Patreon app with the option to download in high-quality MP3. We've also got an Element group where you can come and chat and hang out with myself and other members. Unlike Discord, it has full end-to-end encryption, is decentralized, and is 100% censorship-free. You can also send voice notes as well as much larger audio and video files than you can on Discord. So come and sign up on Patreon. There's no contract, there's no commitment, you can cancel at any time, and it's cheaper than a cup of coffee. So I'll see you over there. I'm out.